I do get asked a lot, not a lot, but I get asked pretty frequently, how do I tell stories? How do I tell stories like you do? And I guess if I boiled it down, you have to understand that you're not trying to convince your listeners, your audience, of evidence. You're putting on a performance to entertain. And I'm not saying necessarily get up and do a dance or put on a costume or whatever, but try to put yourself in the story as you tell it. As you tell the story, visualize the story and describe it as you go. When it comes to stories that are more contemporary, say when like you went to a party and something weird happened or something crazy happened or something, whatever it is, it's okay to. I think when you use the word embellish, people think that you're just making things up. But when I say embellish, I mean add emphasis on the most interesting details. Say like XYZ happens. Word it in such a way that it sounds interesting. Or maybe in a conversation you have in the story, a lot of times people don't speak cleanly. We have ticks, we have uhs, we have ums. Sometimes we say the first part last and last part first. Don't be afraid to reorder the way that somebody said something so it has brevity and it has a little bit more oomph. Because what's important is not recounting word for word exactly how the person said it. Is the important part is conveying the gist behind the intent behind what they were trying to say. So rewrite the dialogue in your story so that it number one, so it doesn't waste time. You got to remember every word that comes out of your mouth it needs to count. The pace of the story matters. The use of your voice. A lot of people don't. How can I say this without sounding like a jerk? A lot of people, they talk from the throat and they don't use their voice in the way that it should be used. A lot of it is because there's, I guess it's a lot of Western culture. It comes off pretentious to be loud, or it comes off, I guess, belligerent to be loud or to project or whatever. And this is true. I am somebody that I speak from the belly all the time. I'm a loud guy. When I talk, I can't whisper. I'm just a loud guy. When I laugh, people down the street can hear me. I've always been like that. But I think that, and I do this a lot with people. And sometimes, like I'm talking to younger guys, I'm like, dude, talk from your belly. Speak, don't like put your head down and talk from your throat. Talk from your belly, brother. Say it with your chest. Whatever you're saying, especially the important things. Say it with your chest. Give strength to that. Give breath. Give air. You're actually speaking when you could feel your diaphragm, your stomach push in when you speak. And that gives authority to how you talk. That gives authority and weight to your words. No matter what you're saying, people will listen. If they can hear you bouncing off the walls, they hear the sound of your voice bouncing off the walls, echoing in the room, resonating, especially if you're somebody that has a bassy, deep voice, that's something that really helps, because they can feel when you project, when you speak, not only do they hear you, they can feel the vibration of your voice. That's why, like radio guys, the best radio guys, they have these deep voices and they talk, some of the singers that sing like the best songs, right? I love power metal, guys with soaring high voices. But what are the songs that like people really, really love, that fall in love with? Christmas songs, You know, the guys from the old times that had the real deep voices, you know, chestnuts roasting on an open fire, like that shit, right? That is because he's got deepness to his. Not everybody has a deep voice, and that's okay. And I'm not saying that people who don't have a deep voice are like little bitches or anything like that. But if you do have that, use that in your storytelling. Use that in your daily speech. Be very cognizant of the inflections that you use. There are certain cultures that the way that they speak in common parlance they don't really have authority, and it doesn't really translate to storytelling. When you are the storyteller, you are the king right now. You are the commander. You are commanding everybody's attention. You are the point of authority that everybody is giving attention to. They're gifting you with their attention, right? So you have to speak this kind of way. In certain Anglospheres, like Australians are really notorious for this. They kind of have this like upward inflection at the end of when they speak, and it comes off soft. And what it is because, and it's not saying that Australians are soft, but what it is that in their culture, they're very gentle communicators, and they're very they have a lot of etiquette and stuff with how they talk. So they inflect at the end of what they're saying, and it almost sounds like a question. And a lot of times Americans will be like, "Did he just ask?" They actually think they're asking a question. But when you're asking a question, you sound unsure. You're not making a statement, right? Like I said there, a statement that sounds strong. So be cognizant of that and use inflections and flow and ups and downs in your storytelling to give different feels and different feelings to it. So when you're saying something that's strong or powerful or something that's like spooky or weird, you want to do that. Like I said, weird, that gives like a up down with a down at the end. But then you inflect upwards when you're trying to lead them somewhere and give them somewhere that has mystery. Upward inflection at the end adds mystery. And these are the kinds of things that you can think. I don't consciously think about these things. I've just listened to thousands of hours of narration and audiobooks and oral performances and music, and I've just kind of adopted them. But if you're somebody that wants to improve your ability to tell stories and to speak, think about these things and put them into practice. And a lot of people, they don't realize guys that are vocal talents, guys that are good speakers or orators or storytellers or impressionists, they do impressions of people. Like I do a Macho Man Randy Savage impression, right? That's not something that I just cropped up. I practiced that 1,000 times in the shower every day until I got it down. You know what I mean? When I tell a story, I've told my really good stories that I tell, I've told them 1,000 times. And before I told them to anybody else, I told them to myself 1,000 times. And I literally have a formula and I memorize it. You got to have a lot of archives in your brain. You got to have somebody you got to have a big bank, right, to store these things. And sometimes the most mundane stories say something, right? Like, for example, at the beginning of this podcast, I told the story of the special guy, Oliver, that I worked with. Most people wouldn't even remember that they worked with a guy like that. And that would just kind of like be ephemeral in their mind. I have the long-term memory of an elephant. So I remembered Oliver. I remember what he looks like. I remember what he sounded like. I remembered my interactions with him. And that's not really that important of a story. That's a pretty mundane thing. But I put that in the archives, and that was sort of a meaningful introduction. So I got it.
It adds color, right? Like
it adds color.
These are the things that add color to our lives, right?
Yeah, everything is a performance. Even when you're not trying to tell a story, even if it's something practical, to view yourself as a performer in the world, and all of these things is I think it will help people to have that, to view speech and oration and storytelling not as just like a utility thing, but as an art. And you don't tell stories to like puff yourself up. You don't tell stories to convey or convince or whatever. Your sole job as a storyteller is to entertain and to captivate and give wonder and weirdness and beauty and spookiness and all of these kinds of things, to give that gift of imagination and wonder and fun and entertainment.
You're listening to an episode of the latest Culture Dads, Age of Sword and Cassette, where two fathers and community leaders discuss modern culture from a timeless perspective. Head on over to culturedads.com for podcasts every week.